Welcome back to Lazer Radio. I'm Brad Sohner. This episode is brought to you by the Lazer Wasp Air Helmet. Designed to meet the needs of time trial, track, and triathlon riders, the Wasp Air provides maximum aerodynamic gain while also providing maximum flexibility in setup. Use the short tail to eliminate any penalty from excessive head movement, or mount the long tail when a traditional teardrop helmet shape is required. Tested in computer modeling, the velodrome, and in the Tour de France, the Lazer Wasp Air is the fastest aero helmet available. See more details on our website at lazersport.com/waspair. Well, we are being joined today from Louisville, Kentucky by Tom Soladay of the Rally Cycling Team, getting ready for their defense of the Stars and Stripes jersey. Tom, I want to talk about tomorrow first, and then we've got some big news for you in your professional and personal life. We'll get to that. But first, Crit Nationals tomorrow. This is a big race for you guys as Rally Cycling. These Criterium races in the United States are a big part of your program.
Yeah, the team's had quite a bit of success over the years. It's kind of where these are the first major races they won were actually in the Criterium scene. And then over the last 10 years, they've developed and brought on more climbers and GC talent. But this has always kind of been the core of the team. It's their fallback. And so with the amount of success we've had in this event, the pressure's high. Not many teams show up to race for anything other than first. And for us, it's the only thing we'll be happy with.
What was your entry to the sport like? I imagine you spent a lot of time racing crits pre-rally.
Yeah, actually
pre-pro, I guess I should say.
Crits really give a lot of riders the launching pad they need, because you don't need to be on one of the top teams. You can pay for your gas, sleep in your car, show up to a crit, no one knows who you are, and you can make a name for yourself if you're just competitive against those bigger teams that you want to ride for. And so that's exactly what I did. The old Super Week races in just out of Milwaukee and Chicago, and it's now gone under. But and then of course you have the Intelligentsia and Tour of America's Dairyland. But that's really where I got the most of my high-end Criterium experience and found the teams that I wanted to ride for. You have quote-unquote made it now with Rally. I mean, you get the hotels taken care of, the travel is taken care of, you got the bike, you got everything. Yeah. But being a pro wasn't always like that. Your cycling career wasn't always like that. Oh, geez. Yeah. You could tell war stories all day about, like you said, sleeping in the car, driving overnight to get to a race, or that's actually how I started and finished my brief triathlon career. Was I spent a few $100, went down to do a half Ironman, slept in the back of my mom's car that I was borrowing. Yeah. That's a good race prep, sleeping in the back of a car. Didn't sleep a wink, nervous. I was up at 5 a.m., first guy in the transition area. Somehow, miraculously, I won that thing. Really? I got a foot mat. And it was... fortunately, I got hurt running. I found cycling. University of Maryland, fell in love with it. Just really loved the team dynamic and the tactics because, I mean, if it came down to just the strongest person, the same person would win every day. And, with cycling, with drafting and team tactics, I just fell in love with it. Yeah. I didn't realize you came from a running background. It was an injury that pushed you out. Yeah, I even taking stairs and walking hurt. I had a stress fracture, and it just I realized that it wasn't a healthy thing for me to be doing with just the level that I was doing it. Yeah. And just bike racing, I race a few times every weekend. Drive home. Yep. I was not sleeping in the back of cars as much anymore. Yep. And that was pretty great. And then, you adapt to sleeping on air mattresses, and eventually you work up to an actual bed a few years into your career. But when you get the seniority and the host housing, you get the real It's bed. Funny. Sometimes you walk into a room and there's like a blanket on the ground. There's a king bed, and the riders usually know who's getting what. They know where they're going, and then you quickly find out who won't be on the team the next year, the person who's not aware of that hierarchy. Right. So when the new guy grabs the king bed with the private bath, you're like, oh, you're not coming back. And we've had multiple examples of guys like that. You're like, it's just it's a very small thing, but everyone notices. When did you feel like you had finally made it as a pro? Like, what was your breakthrough year? Oh, geez. I think it was my second year riding the Continental ranks. It was Team Mountain Khakis. It had been time, development, and then eventually Smart Stop. And we did the Southeast Crit Series And the team historically could ride aggressively, but at the end of the day, they weren't delivering the results, and we were still a small team. But that was back when all the pro teams based in the U.S. would show up to all the criteriums.
Right.
It was at the top of everyone's calendar. Yeah. And I was fortunate enough to have the right headspace to seize the opportunity. Just in the right place at the right time, and I recognized the guy behind me's tired, the strong guy's pulling in this breakaway.
Yeah.
This is the time to go. They're going to hesitate. And I won my first, big criterium as a professional then.
Yeah.
And that's just, the floodgates opened after that. Then I was like, oh, now I know I can do it. I've been dreaming about it, but mentally I didn't have that block anymore. I knew I was capable of doing it, and I was willing to risk losing, which happens far more often. But for the kind of rider like I am, I'm not a specialist in the sprints, the climbs, or the time trialist. I'm a really good teammate, and I'm a decent bike racer, but it's just taking advantage of the situation and so many riders aren't willing to lose and be getting dropped or not finishing races because of how it will look. But you pop off the one result and then you don't finish the next race. Yeah, you can live with that.
Right.
Yeah.
Every year when the contract comes around, it's a crowded environment, and without those results and without those standout things, how do you market yourself? I mean, how do you separate yourself from the hundreds of other guys who can be great teammates?
So there's definitely an advantage when you're on a team and you want to stay on the team, because there are very few unknowns between you and management or whoever's making the decision.
Yeah.
So they know this guy's going to be a professional at the host house. We can leave him in a room full of sponsors. He's not going to put his foot in his mouth.
Yep.
So that goes a long way. They do consider that. Once you've made it onto a team, you can't say, hey, I love people, sign me, and they're like, we're just meeting you right now. How do we know this? Right. But as far as just not being a thorn in the side of management, but at the same time, no one wants to be a pushover. Yeah. You don't want to have to consistently bite your tongue. So being professional, finding the right time, if you have any issues, because it's a job just like any other. There's a lot of stress and hurt feelings, and you try to be a professional and communicate the best you can with the riders, staff, management, whoever it is. And just as long as at the end of the day everyone realizes that it's business, we're here to do a job. We're selling a product, we're selling an image, and consistency is a pretty big part of that. Yeah.
I want to talk about your life today, current life. You recently made a pretty big decision in terms of your racing career.
Yeah, this is my 10th year riding professionally in the U.S. My wife and I got married 3 years ago, and ever since then, over the last 10 years, if you spoke to me 5 years ago, well, no, I have to think about a time when I wasn't with my wife.
Yeah, before you met her.
Okay, so before I met my wife, over 7 years ago, the priority in my life was bike racing, getting and finding and producing results at the next big bike race. That's what I wanted with my life. Yeah. It's what made me happy, no regrets, go out and do my best. And it was exciting, just all the relationships that I was making. I was getting to see the world on someone else's dime, and representing my sponsors in the best way. And it sounds kind of silly, we're paid to just talk about how all the sponsors are amazing, this product's the best, and then the next year everything could change, and all of a sudden all this stuff is the best, right? And so you get accustomed to that, but when you find a program like this, like with Rally Cycling or Circuit Global Sport, the folks that run the team, we've been really fortunate to where there's not too much turnover from year to year. Yeah. The sponsors do not drastically change. The roster doesn't drastically change, and there's a certain consistency and closeness inside our team that I think gives everyone involved a little more confidence and a little more security.
Yeah, it's a little speck of stability in a very chaotic sport.
This is my 7th year on this team, and I've been paid the same day every month for the last, it's in the middle of my 7th year, but for the last, 78 months.
Yeah, there are not a lot of guys racing
consistent.
Yeah, for 7 years.
And I got to say, that is pretty unique.
Yeah. Dating on the road is really hard. Not necessarily meeting someone, but just trying to maintain that relationship. I always think it's funny walking through the hotel hallways. There's riders outside of every room sitting against the wall.
Oh, jeez.
I mean, you've had those nights.
Yeah. So this is my 10th year. My wife and I decided in this past fall or winter that this was going to be my last year racing professionally. And you had alluded to this question previously, and I didn't get around to it. But we decided that I was going to be done because my priorities have changed. And I got distracted. I was like, it was all about racing, performing, loved it, living the lifestyle. But now I value my life at home so much that racing is just really stressful. Even when we're performing, I get home, I see my wife and our 2 little cats.
Yeah.
It's like, man, I can sleep in, I can eat whatever I want. It's getting more and more difficult to leave.
Yeah.
And I'm a professional. I'm motivated. I haven't slowed down. There's no question. I'm performing. I've been really consistent. But then what is making me happy has changed. Things have shifted a little bit to where now I'm thinking, what kind of positive impact can I have on the lives of people around me and in my community? So then I think about volunteering and getting involved politically. And, I've gone to 1 or 2 local meetings where we live in Minnesota now. And people talk about when they're fortunate enough to make it to the end of their lives, and they ask, a common question of, what do you regret? What do you wish you had done differently? And all these things, and, I've heard things like, I wish I hadn't worked so much. I wish I'd spent more time with my family. I wish I had taken this risk instead of playing it safe, instead of just working hard and just paying the bills. And so now, when I was a kid, I think, I wanted to be a firefighter. When they asked you what you wanted to be and you made a little poster or something out of macaroni, it was like of a fire truck. But then, as in my teenage years, in my 20s, because I'll be 34 this year, I didn't believe as much as I do now that I can do whatever I want. If there's something that I believe in and I have a passion and I'm willing to work hard at it, there is nothing stopping me. I can pursue this. And being with my wife, I know I have the support to, pursue these things and want to make a difference. And it has nothing to do with bike racing.
Yeah.
So when we shared these things, and, it's not just words. My wife and I, we communicate every day. And we both know what drives the other person. We're very agreeable people. And I'd like to make a difference in other people's lives if I can help with the development side of cycling. Mm-hmm. But I like people communicating, and I just don't like it when people are being taken advantage of. And so I'm kind of always been the guy on the team who speaks up when there's an issue and a lot of people are complaining. Then I'll just bring the issue to the individual, whether it's a rider or a staff member. And it's not that I know everything, but just to have a discussion and keep the communication lines open to avoid future problems. Right. And outside of cycling, I'm an infant as far as local politics, but I'm open to it, and I'm pursuing my second degree right now. I have a degree in economics from the University of Maryland, and I've been taking accounting courses for a year now. And these are all, we moved to Minnesota. The cycling is terrible there in the winter. I spent all of December in Austin, Texas, and I went to Oxnard to our training camp like 4 weeks early.
Yep.
I did what I needed to do because I had made a commitment that I was going to continue racing.
Yep.
But my heart is pointing me in other areas, and my wife and I want to start a family, and I know that is going to be my focus. I've seen too many athletes they start their families while being full-time athletes, and their spouse and their child is at home, or they're trying to bring them on the road, and they rarely look happy like, bike racing, this is what I want to be doing. Yep. No, they want to take the first flight home to go see their family.
Yep.
And since my wife and I have been working towards that and starting a family, there's no amount of money that could keep me racing my bike. So that's where the focus has shifted.
Yeah.
We're really excited about it, but it's scary because the longer you're in the sport, everyone's committed 100%. If you look like you have 1 foot out the door, there are 100 people lined up, just waiting to take your spot. They're waiting to get paid less, put up with more crap.
Right.
They're hungry. They're hungry like you were 5 years ago.
Totally.
That kind of thing. And so that happens. And I could continue performing for a few more years, But for me, I want to be working towards something. I want to set a new goal. And with bike racing, I have accomplished everything that, for the most part, we could all want to win more races. But I've been part of a lot of winning rosters and really special moments in cycling that it's, in 10 years, I'm not going to have guests over at my house and say, look at this trophy I won that one time. Yeah. They're like, oh, you can race your bike? There are bike races? And it's in the grand scheme of things, it's more I pursued my dreams. It was great, pleasant memories, great friendships. Now I'm moving on to the next chapter of my life.
Yeah, but you're comfortable closing this chapter.
Oh, it's a few years ago, 2 years ago, it was scary. I wasn't ready to stop.
Yeah.
But when it comes down to it, it's a contract negotiation. It's business. Yeah. Feelings are always involved. It's human nature, but every year I see, there's one guy that everyone likes but isn't performing, isn't as committed. And it's difficult. I don't envy the position of our directors of needing to make these decisions.
Right.
It's like, market says you get paid this much, or we have to cut your salary, or there's no room for you anymore. And I see this, and I wanted to be as prepared as I could be without taking a hit to my performance. And it was just all about prioritizing. Every professional cyclist, if you wanted to take an online course, you can make it work.
Right.
You could put your phone down. You could watch less TV.
Yep.
Stop playing video games. If you just prioritized it. So, we just we're so used to, it's not just limited to cycling, but we're supposed to rest.
Right.
And we usually have some kind of electronic screen in front of us while we're doing that. So now that electronic screen has my accounting homework.
Yep. Right.
It's great. Now that I've talked to people and getting ready to enter a new industry, I guess.
Yeah. Possibly.
I've fingers crossed. All of my fingers are crossed. So same with my wife, but it's great because it shows that I am motivated to move on, do something else, but I'm not collecting free lunch here on the team. Like, I'm still performing. I'm doing my job. There are no complaints. Right. There haven't been any passive-aggressive comments about the homework I need to go do, because I've made sure I committed that I still need to perform. I'm getting paid to do a job right now. And it's taken some getting used to, for sure. I mean, you're tired. Sometimes I'm too tired to call my wife. Of all people who deserve a phone call from me, it's her. And things are still scary. But I put myself in a position to increase my odds of making a smooth transition.
There aren't a lot of people that completely change their career at 34 years old.
Oh, geez. Yeah. And most employers, I already know from just the friends and contacts. How do you
explain your resume for the last 10 years?
It's ugly. It is ugly. And that's why I knew that I needed something. And so I started taking the online accounting courses. I was interested. I can't tell you that I'm going to be a CPA in 10 years. You're going to have to put me in a desk, and we'll see how that goes.
Yeah.
But at least just showing that I was racing my bike full time, traveling, but I was also studying and doing well. It's not pass fail. I'm taking it for a grade. It's going to be an interesting thing, because I think for a lot of people, they see the dedication and the work ethic and performing when conditions aren't best, when there's no running water in Guadalupe, or the AC is broken, and it's 90 degrees and really humid, and you're afraid that, a mosquito is going to give you the Zika virus.
Right.
Like, we were doing that last year, and we had 2 guys crash out. One guy couldn't show up because he wasn't healthy. It was skeleton crew. But when you get to know these people, and they hear these things, and you show that you're still teachable.
Yeah.
People want good employees. There's so much on-the-job training these days that as long as that work ethic and you're open to new ideas and ways of doing things, it's I expect that things will work out.
You talked about all the stuff you won't miss, the delayed flights, the air-conditionless hotels, the crashing, the training. What are you going to miss most about not being a pro? What do in 2 years, what do you think you're going to look back on and say, man, if I could just go back and...
So Neil Shirley, he retired from this team, and that effectively opened up a spot for me. So he retired at the end of 2010, I think.
Yeah.
And I think that's when he started his job at Road Bike Action, and he has since moved on from there. But he opened up a spot. He was an older rider spot, and that's what I was going to take. Yeah. There used to be an age restriction. Half the riders had to be under the racing age of 28. Right. So once you hit 28, you better be on a team that wants to keep you, or you had to be winning races.
Yeah.
It was going to be really hard to get that contract.
Yeah.
And we actually went to the Big Island. Alex Candelario, our old team captain, had retired and started Big Island bike tours. And we actually asked Neil, what do you miss the most? And he said, the camaraderie.
Yeah.
It was, and I'm sure he said a few other things, but what really stuck with me was like the guy time, the bonding that you got to do. And we were at Big Island. I'm not on here to plug Cando's business, but this is where Shirley went. And this is, when I think of what people miss the most, I've been trying to think of that because that's a very relevant topic. I'm the only guy who's openly retiring on the team right now. Right. And to say that I'm doing it this early while riding well has been a bit of a surprise to some folks. But, we were in Hawaii and cliff jumping and riding our bikes. I mean, it's some of the most beautiful places I'd ever been.
We should say Alex Candelario retired from the team, went on to start a company called Big Island Bike Tours.
That's right.
He basically does cycling vacations on the Big Island in Hawaii.
Yeah.
So pretty good transition out of being a pro cyclist. But so you went down. You hung out with Cando.
Yeah. So me, Brad Huff, Eric Young, Neil Shirley.
Sweet.
Yeah, it was
the gang's back together.
Oh, it was great.
That must have been cool for Cando.
It was so cool. Yeah, it was great for Cando because we were his we were his trial run.
Right.
We'd put up with anything.
Yeah.
Because we were still bike racers. But Shirley mentioned just the camaraderie and everything like that. And I've been thinking about that over the last few weeks when I actually told the team what my plans were. And it's very special because most of when I am home, I spend time with my wife when she's not working.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much it. And I'm happy there. And the friends we have, most of our close friends we've had for years. And so, you have local friends, acquaintances, but really the meaningful ones that are going to be there down the road.
Yeah.
And I can tell you that I won't miss having to eat.
Yeah. Being forced to eat.
When you're in these stage races, even if you're in the States and you're eating food that you're familiar with, sometimes you're too tired or you feel sick to your stomach. But that 10 kilometers into the next stage, if you didn't eat that extra plate of food,
you're gonna wish you had those calories.
Yeah, and some guys can really pack it away, but I have a difficult time where I'll sit down and eat a lot of one ingredient just to get the food in, so I can go to bed and I'm not hungry.
Yeah.
But that actually feels like the most unhealthy thing I do, is actually eating when you don't want to eat and a regular person wouldn't need to eat. That cracks me.
It's one of the weird things that you push your bodies to as a pro cyclist. The crashing is one thing, but the food, like you said, in the training. I mean, you guys push your bodies to a limit that the body probably wasn't meant to go to when you do these big, heavy training.
It's just like when I ran and before I got hurt running, because I don't know, I did like 4 or 5 marathons when I was like 19, 20 or something.
Yep.
And that wasn't healthy. There was nothing healthy about doing something like that.
Right. Fortunately,
my body healed. I stopped running. But with bike racing, to the degree that we do it, there are no long-term benefits to pushing ourselves as much as we do.
Right.
And then it's your livelihood. So whether you want to do it or not, you have to do it. And there are a few key things I've learned in these 10 years that if I am able to, there's a development program that it's not a done deal. It's the early stages that I want to help with next year. Is no one cares about your excuses, even your teammates.
Yeah.
And I don't mean that they're jerks, but people care about you getting a result and you fulfilling your role on the team. And my legs were a little crampy. Okay, great. You still didn't do your job. No one cares. Or you crashed. And a lot of people are thinking, well, better him than me.
Yeah.
And these are important life lessons that we're learning racing our bicycles of all things. And I have developed some close friendships over the last 10 years with staff, but most importantly, riders, because I'm constantly rooming with them. We're interacting with each other. We're suffering together. And even I have good friends, and I realized that, okay, why aren't people more empathetic towards my struggles?
Yeah.
Because we tend to think about ourselves first. And then I'll have a teammate who I'm a good friends with, and all of a sudden, I'll hear a few more excuses than I prefer.
Right.
I'm like, what's up this guy's butt? Why is this guy complaining all the time? And then that's when I really understood that no one cared about your excuses. It wasn't just that my excuses fell on deaf ears. It was, oh, okay, now I am not sympathetic to this guy, right, who I consider a real friend, not just a teammate, but like this is someone I'm going to stay in contact with long after our careers are over. And that was an important realization for me, was that friendships be darned, it doesn't matter. You're here to perform. If you're not performing, make room for the next guy. Don't get in anyone's way. That's the sport we're in.
Work is work and life is life.
Oh man, it has been work for a few years.
Yeah.
That part I'm not going to miss. I kind of miss having a schedule.
Yeah.
We're creatures of habit, and
yep.
Maybe I'll be eating those words this time next year. But I'm hoping to make a smooth transition to, I'll find my entry-level bookkeeping job.
Yep.
I've convinced myself that that's where I'm going to be happy. Small business. Let me do my work, and hopefully it'll free me up to have some more options, a few years down the road.
Right on. Well, for anyone looking for bookkeeping services,
don't ask me yet.
I know a guy who's going to be available in a couple of years.
That's right. I'm going to be very free schedule in a few years.
Right on. Well, Tom, we're going to miss you in the Peloton, but I know you're making the right decision here. I'm really glad for you. I'm happy that you found the next thing that's going to make you happy.
My wife and I really appreciate it. Everyone in the sport's been great. It's not a bunch of baloney. We're really going to miss the time. We've special friendships. We love the cycling community. So in any way that we can assist locally or on a national level, I know we'll stay involved. And it's been actually great to see your progression. I remember seeing you at some of these early races.
Yeah, Super Week, man.
Jeez, yeah, you were at Super Week. Eddie Van Geist was up there.
Yep.
The villain Italian from the movie Breaking Away. Yep. I heard that every day for like 2 weeks on end for a few years in a row. And then here's Brad. And I'm like, who is this guy? Because were you living... I
was living in Columbus, Ohio at the time. I was born and raised in Columbus, Ohio. Okay. But I was working for the fence and stage crew. So I would show up, set up all the fence and the stage and the sound system in the morning, announce all day, and then tear it down at night and drive it to the next city and set it up.
Were they getting you to announce for free? Were you getting paid as a fencer?
They were.
Of course you were.
Yeah.
They probably paid all the money to Eddie.
Yeah, that was also a classic Super Week thing.
Oh yeah.
But I got my start racing there. Like a lot of riders, it was the race that
was my coming out party for a lot of guys. It's too bad we lost it. There's some more events in the U.S., but it's pretty great to see you've carved out a nice little niche for yourself. So
well, thanks, man. Yeah. I hope I can find my happiness outside of the sport, just like you.
Oh yeah, we
I'm not going to become a bookkeeper, but
praying on it helps.
Right. All right, Tom Soladay with Rally Cycling. Thanks so much for joining us today, and we wish you the best of luck, man. I hope you have a great rest of your year, and I can't wait to see what happens next year.
All right, thanks, guys. Take it easy.
Thanks for listening to today's episode of Lazer Radio. Be sure to check out more great shows from our hosts on the Wide Angle Podium Network. Until next time, I'm Brad Sohner. Thanks for listening.